On today's show, we're going to try and get less friction on the drivetrain by changing the angle of the axle output shaft.
Hey guys, on this week's show, we're going to be talking about the axle output shaft angle. What does that mean? If the angle is not right, your prop shaft sits at such a high angle that it starts giving you problems and starts putting pressure on the entire drivetrain. So last week I installed a new skid plate, a flat skid plate on the TRX4 to give it a little bit more center clearance. So what happened is, because the skid plate is a little bit different where the links hook up, the angle of my entire axle changed, and with that obviously my prop shaft was sitting at such an angle that it was putting too much pressure onto the entire drivetrain. I need to now lift, or basically change my top links so that my axle output shaft lifts up and the angle of the prop shaft is lessened. So looking at the output shaft of the axle, you can see the axle is sitting a little bit of an angle facing downwards towards the floor. What we need to do is we need to lift that up so that it's basically almost looking at the output shaft on the transfer case, so that the angle of the actual prop shaft and the output shaft of the axle is lessened. At the moment that is too high and it's just putting too much pressure onto the drivetrain. So what I need to do is I need to lengthen my upper links. Now I can't really do that, so what I need to do is make myself a new set. So I've removed my two links, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut myself two new ones. I'm going to measure the length that I need. So I'm taking a 4mm threaded rod. Basically what I need that for is my links can directly screw onto the 4mm rod. Then I have a 6mm aluminium tube where that rod can slide into, making it durable enough to become a link. I have measured the casing on the original one, and I want to make it a little bit longer. So the original one was at 8.7, and I want to make the new one sitting around 9.6 centimeters, so that we just have enough that the output shaft lifts up and almost points. It's not level to the ground. I want it to almost point up just a slight bit. I'm going to be cutting the tube at exactly 9.6. So once I push the threaded bar into the tube, I have to let the threaded bar look out the distance that I have inside the actual link. And that distance is exactly 1.3 centimeters. So I can do it a little bit shorter by trimming it down to about 1.2 centimeters, that it doesn't touch the end of the link, that the threaded bar doesn't touch the end of the link. So when I'm cutting the link, I actually cut it a little bit above the line that I've chosen, so that once it's cut through, I can then trim it down to the exact line that I have. And then I just chamfer off the edge just to clean it up a little bit. So now here we have a link that is a little bit longer and will give me that angle that I'm looking for on the output shaft of the axle. And guys, don't worry about it. I think this is the fourth set that I've made in the meantime to get it all right, because once you install them, you will see that you made a mistake. So don't worry about it. You will be making a few links to get this right. So I'm going to take my threaded bar, push it through the rod, take my link and tighten it up at the back. Until it's tight, and then I'm going to take it one winding out. Then I'm going to be measuring the I forgot the measurement already. was it 1.2? Yeah, 1.2 centimeters that I actually need to cut the threaded bar off, which would be sitting right there. Just going to give it a little nick. Pull it out and cut it off. So now I have my longer tube than the original. Well, this is not the original, it's also one that I made. The longer tube, the longer threaded bar, slide it through and slide on or install the link on the end of this threaded bar and tube. Line it up so that I have my links sitting in the right position. The top links have a little bit of a kink and an angle, and they need to be sitting opposite to each other. So here I have my old link and here I have my new link. So you can see this one is a little bit taller, and probably measuring the difference in height, I have got 0.7 centimeters difference in the lengths of these two links. Let's cut another one and then install it back in the truck. So I am done with my two links. Putting them next to each other, you will kind of see that this one is a little bit shorter. I know in that truck, the shorter one needs to sit on the left side of the truck so that the axle lines itself up in the center of the actual chassis. So I needed to build a few links to figure that out, that one side has to be a slight bit shorter. But seeing that I know that now, I always know that left side, so the left side of the truck sits the shorter link. This is not a basic for every single truck. This is just on my TRX4. That's the way it is. So let me quickly fit them and let's see how my output shaft on the axle sits. So I've reinstalled the two top links, and just now I said the left one is the longer one, the shorter one, but the left one is actually the longer one in this case. Because if you look at it, you kind of see that this is a little bit offset to the right side of the truck. Basically meaning that you want to line up the edge of your chassis with the links at the bottom. So when you're looking at it from both sides, you don't want the one to be sitting underneath it. You want them to basically be in the same line as the chassis, so that when you're looking at it, everything from the top, they're kind of lining up. I think in this case, I still need to line it up a little bit better. The axle still needs to move a little bit to the right. Basically, what I am looking for in this case is the angle of the output shaft on the axle. So I want that to be sitting either level or a little bit facing up. In this case now it's facing a little bit up, so that the prop shaft angle is less. And in this case you can see the prop shaft coming from the top here. The angle is much less, causing less twist as it rotates, and therefore putting less pressure onto the entire drivetrain. So that's what we've done. The only thing I need to do is maybe get that axle a little bit more over to the right, and then I should be on 100%. Let me see if I can line that axle up a little bit better. Going to just pull the thread out the back and shorten this link and maybe lengthen that one. So I can actually pop them out, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unscrew it by one turn, by unscrewing it, making this just a touch longer. And I think that should already do the trick. If it doesn't, I will shorten that one by one turn. Let's pop that back in there and let's see how much difference that made. So now, using the knuckles on each side of the axle, I'm going to just look at it from the top and see if they are sitting plus minus under the chassis. So what I'm trying to do, lining the camera up with the side of the chassis rail, and then see where my screwdriver lies, doing it the same on this side, lining it up with the chassis rail, and they should be plus minus the same. So seeing that my axle is sitting as level as possible, or even pointing up towards the output shaft of the transfer case, everything is running a little bit smoother. So that angle is less, meaning I have less tension, less pressure, less friction in the drivetrain. That means I have got more control on my motor. That means less friction on the entire drivetrain, less friction on the actual motor, giving me more control while I'm crawling. Yeah. Okay guys, that's it for me for this week. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye. Oh, my battery died.